transported easily. So you can ask, well, what's in it for me? And I think it's the big one is because it saves time. And the next slide gives you an example. This is a book and a wiki site that Dave Wiley and his colleagues had when he was at Utah State University. He's developed a whole booklet on how to, what are the licensing, how do you reuse, how do you recycle, the whole genre of applications and challenges of using open educational resources. And I was asked to do a 3-day seminar in South Africa for some folks on open educational resources. And so in a panic I thought, oh man, I'm going to spend 3 days work. It means I've got to do all these overheads, I've got to do all this planning, I've got to do this, got to do that. And then I decided, well, I better walk the talk and punch it into OER Commons, and bang, Dave Wiley's resource handbook came out. I see that it's free to download, or somebody can print it for 20 bucks. And basically, this was my preparation, all done for me. So it's just one example of a way that you can gather materials, save yourself time, and produce a higher quality educational experience. Naturally, I'll be able to customize it to the South African context and my own Canadian context when I put it in use. The second area I want to talk about is self-archiving, and Tony's going to go into the details and the logistics of putting one's educational content or one's product in a repository. For most of us, our salaries and sometimes the production costs of our doing research are paid by the public through salaries, through institutional grants, or through tuition. And I think given the fact that the public is paying for our product, it means that we have an obligation to give that to the public, and not just to the public who exists at universities, but actually to everyone in every country all around the world. And that used to be a nice ideal, but was pretty well impossible to do if one tried to post things all over the world and chew up mounds of paper and trees. But now with repository software like DSpace or ePrints or Sherpa Romeo, it allows quality scholarship to be made publicly accessible, reviewed, persistent, syndicated, commented upon, and transparent. I'll get to commented upon in a minute, but the idea is that these resources don't have to be dead once they're published. They can be enriched by open scholars commenting upon them, judging them, adding value, adding comments, that sort of thing. The next one is that open scholars apply their research, and if you look at the kind of opportunities that scholars have these days to participate both virtually and face-to-face around the world, it's quite extraordinary. You see the Pan-African Research Agenda on pedagogy. They have an observatory, examples here of an association of international educators. Of course, UNESCO is a large and huge supporter of open educational resources, and volunteer IT professionals to charities needing it. I think there's all kinds of opportunities for us to, not only, we used to say, what is it, think globally, act locally, but now we can act globally as well to some of the opportunities that open access and open visibility of organization provides to us. This was a new one that I discovered when doing research and work for this, is an idea called Open Notebook. And this is mostly used in the natural sciences, but you can see applications in social sciences and maybe perhaps in humanities as well. But the idea is that when you're in the data collection phase, you make that a data collection accessible to others so that they can see what you're doing, they can add insights, questions, and the data becomes much more transparent because it's there in real time being exposed. And of course this may raise ethical issues and privacy to subjects and things like that, so it doesn't work in all cases for all people. But there is software now available, one in particular called Open Netware, or Open Notebook, and it basically gives you a place to publish the results while they're in progress of your whole data collection when it's actually happening. And I think that way people get a vision of the process as well as the output of scholarly research. I think that's one thing that topic often gets covered up if your only exposure to research is reading the polished, peer-reviewed articles that have maybe been under review for 6 months and have been improved by comments from peers. You get the idea that science and research is really straightforward. It just always works the way it's been described in the literature, but in fact it's often a messy process. And the more one opens the process to public scrutiny, the more people learn from it. The other thing that open scholars do is they help each other. I'll get to this a little later, but information overload is of course a huge problem. Just because everything is open doesn't mean we have enough open time to get at it, to find what's useful for us. And how do we do that? Well, we openly share with each other, and we filter for each other. And the most popular and common way to do that is through sharing your insights through blogs. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Stephen Downes' Online Learning Daily. Stephen does an email every working day, mostly every working day of the year. And what he does is he spends, I don't know how many hours of his workday trolling around the net for things of interest to open and distance educators and open learning pedagogues and educators in general. And I think what he does is he allows us to not have to do that work ourselves, and he gives us the link, and of course he gives Steve's own interpretation of that news, which again adds value and brings a little of Stephen across to us. Here's my own blog here, the Virtual Canuck, but there are thousands of edublogs. There's another one, Open Thinking, Ransom Resources from an Open Educator. And there's, you don't have to do text, you can do podcasting. And the nice thing about these things too is that they're all searchable, they're all on the open net, so Google or Google blog search is a nice tool, as is Technorati, and there's other ones that sort of tend to aggregate and bring these things up front based upon subject and keywords, so that you don't have to spend all of your working day just trying to find the nuggets that you find of interest. But I wouldn't underestimate the value too of simple email lists that people from various communities, they filter, they see something useful, they share it with other people, and bang, it sometimes leads to conversations, and other times it just leads to public knowledge sharing. Open Scholars support emerging open learning alternatives. These are two universities that are really trying to stretch the openness paradigm by offering tuition-free programming. And it's a little early days to say how well they'll succeed in that. The first peer-to-peer learning university, P2PU, what their model is to try to join and get volunteer tutors to volunteer to teach people from around the world, and they often use open educational resources so that the volunteer doesn't have to do more than use materials that are already produced by other institutions. Only they've started to realize that education is more than just the content, it's also the process. And how can we get the process at the most affordable cost so that it becomes accessible to people around the world? And one of the key uses is using volunteers. The University of the People was just founded in California, headed by an Israeli entrepreneur. And their model is to charge people to take exams, but I think more importantly, the first course that any student at the University of the People takes is one on how to support peer learning, how to ask the right kinds of questions, how to find resources for others. And they, again, using open educational resources and volunteers, they hope to provide quality programming. Neither of these institutions is yet accredited by one of the national or international accrediting agencies, but it's a goal of both of them. And I think I'm just going to stop for a quick break and hope that somebody will put their hand up or just grab the mic. And I'd be interested in if you've had any experience with either of these organizations or any of the other slides that inspired a comment or question. So do grab the mic if you've just been waiting to get in here.
Okay, it's Dennis Marvick here. one of the things that I've been engaged in for the last little while